So welcome to Handyman Connections webinar part 2. We're going to go over and recap, really dig into the technology piece of the business, the investment piece of the business. We're also going to talk about craftsmen more in depth and understanding the recruitment process of craftsmen. So without further ado, let's kind of recap the technology first and then dig into it piece by piece. So, and we have a tablet. You're basically going to have a laptop where the estimating software is going to be housed on this laptop. And as I stated in part 1 and kind of briefly went over this a little bit, we have an estimating software system that is not proprietary to Handyman Connection, but it is called Xactimate. It's predominantly used in the industry, and it's also used by most insurance companies. So it's very slick, it's very sophisticated, it's very precise, and it will help you deliver a very clear estimate for the customer and detailed estimate. So it cannot be loaded on an iPad. It has to be located on a tablet or surface like a laptop. You'll have a little Bluetooth printer with you. You'll also have a laser pointer and then your smartphone, of course, where you can be able to deliver a full estimate. Our owners do practice this role in the beginning. And then when they're ready from a profitability standpoint, they then hire a service advisor to take over that role for them. So let's recap that just for a second. So all work south of around $1,500, we call that our handyman reactionary type work, okay? Like water heaters, garbage disposals, dishwashers. That stuff doesn't need a fancy estimate, okay? Your craftsman will bid out and take care of those jobs for you, and never underestimate those smaller jobs. There's a really good profit margin in them. And then all jobs pretty much approximately north of around $1,500, that's when our customers need a nice estimate. And so in the beginning, our owners do practice that role so they can really understand their pricing in the field, their gross profit margins, their labor percentages, and then they will hire a service advisor who will make 15% gross profit on commission on the completion of the job. So you want to be ready for that person, okay? And we'll talk about that more as well and when we debrief at the end. We also have a mobile platform. We're the only brand in the industry that has a mobile platform. It was derived from the Uber technology as well as the Waze app technology. It enhances our customer experience and also creates efficiency for the owner as well as providing real-time data and also efficiency for our craftsmen and really good on-time rates. We also have a web portal that was specifically designed for Handyman Connection for all of the recruiting, vetting, onboarding, and screening of craftsmen. So you do everything through this portal. It's kind of a one-stop shop for you, and it makes things very streamlined, and it's all at a click of a button, and we'll talk about that today as well. And then, of course, all of the business data is at your fingertips. So all of your sales figures, your marketing results, your projections, your key performance indicator numbers, all of these things are at your fingertips to be able to monitor how the business is doing at all times. So what are we essentially doing? We're leveraging technology to help you steer, drive, manage, and ultimately scale a profitable business. Technology is a tool that will ever evolve, and it will evolve for the better. It will always evolve to make you more efficient and the good news and minimize challenges. And the good news is that we're doing all of that background research for you. We're handling all of that for you. You can focus on running the business. We'll handle delivering and providing all of the latest and greatest support as best as we can with technology. That's something that's really important to us. Speaking of which, we have an internal, what we call intranet, or almost like an internal Facebook called Handyman Connection University. And it allows you as the owner to be really kind of stay connected to us for support purposes. So members of our home office team will post all kinds of tips and best practices on here and updates, if you will. And then all of my franchisees are also connected to each other on here. So they discuss all kinds of things from estimates to marketing to our upcoming conference coming up in January to all kinds of things. And we respond back to them if they have questions from the home office team. So again, you get to really be kept abreast of all that's going on, and it can really be knowledgeable for you. And then all of our training material is housed on HCU. So essentially, you don't have to send your employees to Cincinnati to be trained like yourself. Training is always free for you and your employees, but you would have to absorb the lodging costs and the travel costs So you could easily train your CSR, which remember from part 1 is your customer service representative. You could easily train them using our training material on HCU. And then in theory, you could train a service advisor to learn the estimating software as well. You could simply have them shadow you, maybe go on some estimates with you, and they could learn the software. But we have had owners send service advisors to Cincinnati to learn the estimating software system. So that's completely up to you. So let's kind of recap the technology and really go over it. And obviously, if you became an owner, and certainly also, hopefully, if you come to our Discovery Day coming up soon, you'll get a deeper understanding of this as well. And then our owners obviously learn this very extensively. So let's recap. So in the middle, that's your CRM system. North of that is Career Plug. That is the portal where you're going to do all the vetting and onboarding and screening of craftsmen. To the right of that is Surefire Local. That is a marketing agency that we partner with, that my VP of Marketing, Marcy, spearheads that. And this company actually pulls additional marketing data to really help maximize our campaigns effectively. And they also help our individual franchisees quite significantly, okay? Dispatch is our mobile platform. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Strike Iron is an additional information company. They basically, it's know your customer, know your target market. How long have they lived in the home? What is the age of the home? How many kids do they have? What's their annual income? All of those things are really important when you're doing your target market penetration. And then we all know what Power BI is. Call Experts is our call center. So that's out of Charleston, South Carolina. They offer various packages to support the volume of your business. And we're really excited. We actually just changed over to Call Experts. And so we're really excited to see them support our franchisees. And they're a lot. Again, remember the call center is an extremely cost-effective approach for you, minimizing your overhead and not helping you to make sure you don't miss any of those inquiring calls, because your CSR has a lot of other functions that they need to focus on during the day. So Call Experts is really a big help, huge help. Web Punch is, remember, that reputation management company I was telling you about in part 1. They monitor what is said about you on the web, respond back to customer reviews to support the integrity of the business. And they're a really good partner of ours to assist our owners. First Data is merchant services company. That's where we do all of our credit card processing through. So most of all of the payments we take our credit card. Once in a while you may have an elderly customer or someone that will give you cash. Every once in a while a customer will pay you cash. But for the most part, yourself, your service advisor in the future, and your craftsman will simply wave their smartphone over a customer's credit card for instant processing. And my VP of Operations has negotiated a really good rate for our owners, so you'll learn about that in Discovery Day. Home Advisor and Angie's List, our 2 big lead generation portals, are also connected to the call center, which then can see your schedule in your CRM system and, of course, make appointments for you, and then, of course, your website. So our centralized and proprietary CRM system is connected to and speaks to all of my other connecting platforms, okay? We're virtually almost paperless, not 100% paperless yet, but we're almost there. So let's talk about our mobile platform. The mobile platform provides real-time data to the franchisee and also assists our craftsmen in being efficient and on time, ultimately, of course, delivering that great customer experience. So our mobile platform is derived from 2 technologies, the Uber technology and the Waze app technology. Most people, of course, have heard of Uber, but the Waze technology is also a pretty popular technology these days as well. So on the left-hand side, whether you start off with all subcontractors or you have both subcontractors or employees, they will need to put in their schedule. Their schedule will be, they can input it into the mobile app. The mobile app will then communicate the schedule to the CRM. Need to know when they're available to work. Always remember, though, if you keep craftsmen, subcontractors busy, they're going to give you the bulk of their time. So that's really the consensus on that, really simple. But again, you need to know when they're available for work. In the middle, that's GPS tracking, customer tracking to the customer's home. That's pretty standard these days. However, what's interesting and a little bit less standard is the fact that our craftsmen will actually get pinged to leave early if there's anything barring their way to the customer's home. For example, an accident, construction, weather, you name it. Anything that would be barring the way to get to the customer's home, they will get pinged to leave earlier or rerouted if necessary. So when we instituted this mobile platform, our on-time rates have jumped 38%. We're now at a 97 to 98% on-time rate within 5 minutes to a customer's home. If I'm a craftsman, I know what I'm basically going to do when I arrive at the customer's home. So I know the job I'm going to do. Okay, there's nothing worse than a customer having to tell the story of what they need multiple times. We really want to have our customers really tell us what they need one time and have us show up and take care of it. So Craftsman also knows approximately what he's going to be charging the customer. Now remember, that could change. Sometimes a dishwasher you think can be repaired, it needs to be replaced. So that can change. For the most part, Craftsmen know what they're arriving to the home to do for the customer. If I'm a customer, I get a text message that the craftsman is on his way. I get to watch him driving to the home on my smartphone like Uber. Okay, I can call him or text him. I have a German Shepherd in the front. Please come around the back. You get the idea. I get a picture of him. Sometimes I'll get the call center will actually send out a short bio of the craftsman. Does he live in the neighborhood or in the community? Does he have a couple kids? All those things kind of ease the transition into the home. So this is not a perfect stranger. And our craftsmen all wear Handyman Connection shirts with their name tag and the last time they've been background checked on the name tag as well. Just all creating ease for the customer. If I am a craftsman, I know what I'm doing for the day. So I get up in the morning. I know at 9 a.m. I'm going to Corey Road to remove a wall covering. At 1 o'clock, I'm going to do a bathroom upgrade. At 9 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going back to Corey Road to do a trellis repair. So maybe I check on those trellises in the morning, and maybe I pick up my materials on the way home to prepare for the morning. So as you can see, again, the technology can leverage efficiency. And it also saves a ton of time. Craftsmen having to call the office, numerous times a day, which, no one loves to have to do that. So the mobile platform is really helpful. If I'm a customer, this is what it looks like when I get a text message from the craftsman that he's on his way. I click on the link. I then watch him driving to the home on my smartphone like Uber. Now, customers in this day and age, you'd think that with all the technology that we have today, they would be expecting something like this in this industry, but it is still not very expected. So customers are pretty wowed by our technology still, and it's pretty exciting. So if you take a look at a couple reviews that I'll read to you out of Yelp, now you might say, well, Tara's going to show me all of the good reviews. Well, I'm definitely going to show you some good ones, but I will be honest with you that we get a ton of really, really great reviews. So this is Matt in Morton Grove. He says, I also like the fact they are utilizing technology to support their services, email reminders of the appointment, text messages when the technician was arriving. Work they did was spot on. Everything repaired to our satisfaction. Work was done efficiently. Cost was fair from start to finish. The entire process was a breeze. So in addition to the technology review, I really like the way this customer goes into more satisfaction of the experience. That's exactly what we're trying to deliver. Colleen in Chicago, they're even 15 to 30 minutes early. Their guys show up. They're easy to schedule. Estimates are accurate. Work is completed as described. So again, really good responses to our technology. So all invoices and receipts do go to the customer's email. And so now I'm going to get into the estimating software system. I'm basically going to, I cannot show it to you live, but I'm going to show you a couple larger jobs that you would not specifically get right out of the gate of training, but jobs that you will get or can have an opportunity to get eventually. But my purpose of doing this is to be able to show you what the software is capable of. Now, certainly, if you want to see this live at our Discovery Day, Dan, our Director of Technology, could probably do an estimate for you live very easily. But today, I will show you a couple examples just to give you an idea. Okay, so this is an apartment complex that was purchased, and as you can see, the pool definitely needs some TLC, and they could not find a craftsman to even come and do an estimate for them. Or excuse me, a contractor to do an estimate for them. Because general contractors do primarily a lot larger and a lot bigger jobs and commercial. We definitely don't hire general contractors. They don't need us. They make plenty of money on their own. But in this particular case, they could not get a general contractor to even give them an estimate. So one of my owners came in and within 25 minutes had an estimate booked and a deposit for actually far lower than what their budget was. Their budget was $15,000. We came in at just under $14,000. So basically, you're going to build the customer's room or project for them virtually on the spot. You're simply going to measure using your smartphone or your laser pointer, and the software is going to do the rest. Okay? This is the actual estimate that came in, as you can see, at just under $14,000. This is another job out of Rochester, New York. The customer wanted us to build a seasonal room so that they didn't have to go outside to get to their indoor pool. They wanted a room to connect the pool to the home. So again, you build the project for the customer virtually on the spot, okay, by again, just simply measuring, okay, and inputting the information into the system, and the system will do the rest. You also can show the customer 3D pictures, such as the show Property Brothers does. Okay, they can move it around. They can make any necessary or wanted adjustments. For example, change from linoleum to hardwood floors. You get the idea. Customers really appreciate that. We also do full basement remodels, for example. If you don't have a basement where you're at, you can, libraries, decks, dens, you name it, we can do it. So, for example, though, for the first 2 years, anything over $15,000, 1.5, my operations team is going to peek at the job just to make sure you didn't miss anything. Not because we're your boss, but because we're there to protect you. So the software primarily protects you from missing anything, but it is still possible. For example, if you're doing a basement remodel and you forget insulation, that's going to be $1,000. That's going to eat into your margin. So we just want to simply protect you for the first 2 years. Any job over $15,000, we want to take a peek at. Keep in mind, though, that the software is going to calculate for you your gross profit margin, your labor percentage, your cost of materials based on the zip code in your area, and how long it should take you to do the job. So again, the software is going to primarily do almost everything for you. It's not very difficult to say that you would never usually miss anything, but it is still, because the software kind of helps prevent that, but it's still possible. So we just want to protect you. Okay. This is a before and after picture of that Rochester job. So we did a lot for this customer. We actually did more than the seasonal room. We did a full concrete patio, interior walls. I believe we actually built a cover for the heater and the filter. So our craftsmen, again, don't go on the roof, but if the roof comes over to the side, we can certainly do that. So always a good idea to know some roofing companies in the community. They can assist, and they appreciate the business, and they will refer you business as well for things they don't do. So here's another view of that before and after structure. Okay, we did not build the pool. The indoor pool was already existing. So in completion, we did the 16 by 32 inch room, giving them interior access to the pool, concrete walls, concrete patio, interior walls. So we did a lot for this customer. And again, everything was estimated on the estimating software system. We also do a full walkout basement or first floor walkout. So all these pictures I'm showing you are all real jobs. And we do walkouts as well. Again, all estimated on the software system. We can talk more about the software system when we debrief at the end. And also, again, if you want to see it live, you can certainly see it at our upcoming Discovery Day. So let's talk about labor. Let's talk about our craftsmen. Our craftsmen are the cornerstone of what we do. We want to keep them, and we want to find good ones, and that's really important to us. We also want them to have a really good experience with us. One of the kind of the strongest leverage points that keeps them, and so we'll talk about that. So let's talk first about Mike in Charleston, South Carolina. Mike actually works for who was awarded our Franchisees of the Year award at our recent conference last January. And Steve and Celeste, they're out of Charleston, and they bought a resale, and they actually doubled the business in the first year. And Mike actually won the award for Craftsman of the Year. We had 2 craftsmen at our conference that won the award for Craftsman of the Year because we couldn't decide on one. We had 2 that were so outstanding. Mike here actually won the award because he was the first craftsman in history to complete over $200,000 in sales for the owner. So remember, your craftsmen are attributing to your sales profitability quite significantly. A good remodeler should do close to $200,000 for you a year in sales. A good handyman should do close to $150,000 for you in sales. When they reach $100,000 in sales mark, they should be recognized in what we call our Platinum Club. I can tell you that some appreciation and a thank you and making them feel valued are very strong leverage points that retain them. We actually did a little consensus across the brand and really kind of did some research to help them uncover to us what is some of the strongest leverage points that keeps them with us. And ironically enough, aside from the monetary gain, of course, and the living that everybody needs to make to support their families, they actually communicated to us that it was the relationship they had with the owner that we heard a significant higher feedback about. That's why they stay. So the relationship. So maybe the owner, grabs a beer with them once in a while, or takes them to lunch once in a while, or if they don't drink, fine, they still go do something together once in a while. That's important. I mean, we're definitely not saying you need to have them over for Thanksgiving dinner, but certainly to have a relationship. This is not corporate America. We want them to feel, really included and really valued as much as possible. If they do reach these milestones and you want to incentivize them monetarily, that's up to you. But just remember, a little goes a long way, and they really appreciate that. So that's one of the leverage points that keeps them. The other is the fact that we provide a platform for them to just simply be craftsmen. They don't have to worry about anything else. They don't have to market. They don't have to sell. They don't have to do a lot of paperwork. They just wake up in the morning and they just do their craftsmanship, and that's their artistry, and that's what they want to do. And so this is a real testimonial that we got from Bill in Wheaton, Illinois. He says, working with Handyman Connection is the best thing to happen to me. I no longer fear finding work to provide for my family. Handyman Connection allows me to do what I do best, be a craftsman. Okay, that was a real testimonial. One of our candidates, such as yourself, was actually in an area where we had a franchisee during their due diligence process and saw one of our craftsmen walking into Home Depot and took them aside and asked them, well, what makes you stay with Handyman Connection? And it was basically the testimonial that I just read to you, that I can just be a craftsman. I don't have to worry about anything else. Average craftsman with us makes between $55 and $60 a year on average, and we provide a really good living for them. So that leads me to speaking about our craftsman brand experience. So we want our craftsmen to have a good experience like our customers do with us. Now, of course, they're going to have a different experience, but we provide a lot of tools and training to our owners around what we call the craftsman brand experience, so that we're delivering that experience to our craftsmen, again, all associated with them helping to stay with us. Okay. Let's talk about Robert in Colorado Springs. Robert actually works for one of my largest franchisees in Colorado Springs. Robert gets recognized because he actually gets really high survey scores from customers. So if you recall in part one, we talked about Net Promoter Score, which is a survey metrics that we use to measure customers' feedback. And our customers are not only providing feedback for the individual business owner, and the business itself, but the experience they have with the individual craftsman on each job. And so Robert here gets recognized for getting very high survey scores from customers. So in theory, he's really pleasing every customer he goes to, creating a very nice experience for them. So in theory, Robert should get really incentivized by getting the first dibs on the larger jobs, as an incentive for his really good service to customers. But that's up to the owner, but that is definitely something that we strongly encourage. And then we already talked about Mike. Let's talk about Michael in Wheaton, Illinois. Michael actually was a local, what we call Chuck in the Truck, and he was a competitor. And he started to realize, wow, if I work for Handyman Connection, they'll feed me all my jobs. I potentially could make more money. I believe on his own, he was making around $38,000 a year, and I think he cleared close to $70,000 with Handyman Connection last year at the end of 2016. So again, that's the exception, not the norm. The norm is between about 55 and 60, but I don't really think Michael is going to be leaving us anytime soon, which is good. What a great living we're able to provide for him in association with him being on his own. So he really appreciates being with my owner down in Wheaton, Illinois. This is the portal where you're going to vet, recruit, and onboard and screen all your craftsmen. So this portal actually is a complete one-stop shop for you. So at a click of a button, it will initiate all your background checks, which are required. It will send out a timed technical test and a personal assessment so that you get a really nice kind of brief synopsis of the craftsman's skill sets before you call them in for an interview. At the end of the day, though, you do need to call the craftsman in for an interview. You never want to hire a craftsman over the phone. You need to make sure they are presentable to customers. They are going to be representing your business. They're going to be representing our brand. And it's important to make solid decisions on who you're going to hire. Okay. Now, this portal will also scour between 30 to 40 other portals looking for craftsmen for you. So portals such as Indeed, Craigslist, Career Builder, Home Depot, to help you find craftsmen. Well, last year alone, we generated around 33,000 applications, and as a company, we need about 3,000. So we do get plenty of applications. It's just up to you to be able to weed out the good ones, and we teach you all kinds of best practices around that. And then, of course, your CSR, in my opinion, can help you out with this process in the beginning. Typically, my owners spend about 10 to 15 hours a week recruiting craftsmen in the beginning. The projection is to really hire and recruit one craftsman a week. But I just had an owner actually in Georgia who had all 6 craftsmen hired before he came to training in Cincinnati. But you do start recruiting them in training, so that's definitely possible. So we'll certainly answer any questions at the end in regards to this portal, but it also sends out your decline letters. And if you ever found a craftsman on your own, let's say you're in Home Depot and you find a craftsman and you start talking to him and you want to hire him, that's fine. Just vet him through the portal. Just make sure you do the background check and vet him through the portal. So let's take a look at some scores that customers evaluate our craftsmen across the country. So Winchester, Blue Ash, Boise, all areas that are pretty important to us. I mean, all areas are important, but just to be able to show you that we do find really good, hardworking guys that get really good scores from customers. So I just want to show that to you. Let's talk about your first year support plan with Handyman Connection and what that looks like and what you would go through as a franchisee with us in the interim. Okay, lots and lots of support. Okay, again, franchising, you're in business for yourself. You're absolutely never by yourself. So let's talk about that. So hypothetically speaking, basically you've been doing due diligence with myself. I guide you in the right direction. I make sure that all of your questions are answered. I then introduce you to my team at Discovery Day. Okay, we'll talk about that after we debrief as well, and that's a very critical part of the process. It is not a commitment meeting. It is a meeting for all of us to be able to meet each other, really distinguish a mutual fit, be able for you to be able to get a deeper understanding of the brand, meet the support team who would be supporting you, and it's a great experience as well. We enjoy our Discovery Days and hosting you, and it's a really great time for us in the home office team. So essentially, you'd come to Discovery Day. I then would call you a couple days later, congratulate you, tell you you've been awarded a franchise, and then you would make arrangements to come to training. Our next training will begin around October 18th, and we will talk about the dates for Discovery Day when we wrap up. Boot camp is 5 weeks of boot camp training. Okay, 5 weeks are in your home, and then you do, so basically you're on live webinars in your home, like such as this, from about 9 to 2. And then you have some homework to do to practice what you learned. There's also a checklist that you'll have to be able to go through that's very detailed that will help you all the way up to launching your business. And we call it boot camp for a reason. It is a full-time effort. It's designed for you to really maximize your time of learning and get you ready to be profitable as fast as possible. Okay, so after the 5 weeks, you then come to what we call training session A, which is 6 days of in-classroom training in Cincinnati. Okay, and that's where you learn the estimating software system, you practice recruiting craftsmen, you do estimates, very, very good experience, very thorough for you, and then you launch the business. Okay, and then somebody from my operations team actually will come out and assist you for about a week and help you launch the business. Okay, help you doing estimates, recruiting craftsmen, whatever you need to help launch the business. Okay, and then you come back to what is called training session B, which is about 3 days. Usually it's in Chicago or Cincinnati as well. And we want you to get away from the business for a couple days, take a breath, really establish, how did the launch go? How are things going? Let's look at the numbers. Let's see how you're doing. Get you away from the business for a couple days because it can be a little overwhelming, and we want to make sure that we're there to support you. And then around month 9 or so, my VP of operations will then come out and really assess how the business is doing. Give you some coaching if necessary. We all could use some coaching. And just, again, he's not your boss, but he's there to coach, support. And my advice to you is to really listen and follow the system the first year because we know what it takes to be successful. And I can tell you that during validation, if you probably asked a couple of my owners, they would tell you that if they would have followed the system even more closely the first year, they would have been even more profitable. So follow the system. It is there to for your benefit and for the benefit of the growth of the business. And then we have an annual conference every year. This year it's going to be in San Diego. Last year was New Orleans. The year before that was Orlando. So it's always somewhere nice. It's around the end of January. Again, want you to get away from the business. All of our owners come in from all over the country. It's a really great time for you to learn best practices, gain some really good knowledge, really get a chance to interact, and believe me, you'll thank us after you leave how great it was for you. So I know conference is really important, and let's face it, it's a lot of fun. We know how to have fun. Our culture embraces it. We love it, and it's important to have some fun. And then after a year's worth of experience, you join a little bit more of a serious group called the peer group, and it's a little bit more of a serious, more confidential meeting where you get together with about 5 to 7 other owners, and you guys really bring your P&Ls and you just tear them apart, and you go through them together. And you hold each other a little accountable as well for support, right? They might say to you, you know, hey, where's your marketing budget this month? You said it was going to be X. You know, where's it at? Or what's your sales profitability this month? You said it was going to be Y. Where's it at? Let's talk about your KPIs. You know, tell us where you're at. Again, it creates a lot of support, really gives you honest feedback. And then a lot of great friendships are usually formed. We get a lot of feedback from our owners that they like this almost the best out of everything. Because it's more smaller, it's more intimate, and you really get a lot of value out of it. And then they always do something fun. They'll go, you know, golfing, they'll go fishing. One year they raced cars, so they do something fun, okay? This is what offices typically should look like with us. We are not fancy. There's no reason to have expensive stuff in your office, nor do you need a fancy office retail storefront of any kind, okay? Make it practical. Put your money elsewhere. Your customers never come to your office. So, you know, tables, chairs, desks, inexpensive. Craigslist stuff is fine. Used stuff is fine. A place for your CSR to sit is necessary. You need a desk, and then, of course, a place to hold meetings. This is another example of an office. Again, that's a CSR. Does not need to be fancy, okay? Who are we looking for? What's our ideal franchisee? We're looking for assertive leaders who are very growth-oriented, really interested in the ability to scale the business, not just buying themselves a job, okay? Willing to invest in a proven market and really build a brand. Build an asset to either retire from or pass down to family, sell, okay? We're going to do a little due diligence on you. I'm going to ask you to take a short personal assessment, take you about 30, 40 minutes, and it's just a formality for us. It's part of the process. It shows us reactionary problem-solving skills that are applicable for the industry, and I think you'll find the results rather intriguing. I'll definitely go over those with you. And then, of course, that leads me to our last slide, is the capital to scale the business. You want to grow the business. Again, not just looking for somebody to buy themselves a job or a tax write-off. This is an appreciating asset that's an investment, and it will grow. And the more it grows, the more profitability you make. So let's talk about the investment. This comes right out of the FDD. So after I finish up and wrap up this call, I'll be able to send you the FDD, and we'll talk about that as well in a couple minutes. But I do want to go over the initial breakdown of the investment because it's important for you to understand it. And as a franchisor, we actually have to disclose a full range of investment. So we have to make sure there's just no secrets in franchising. We're very heavily regulated by the FTC, so we have to make sure, and that's the Federal Trade Commission, if you weren't sure what that was. We actually have to make sure that we are disclosing a full range of investments. We have to take into account all areas such as, Manhattan, New York, Southern California, areas that are going to be more expensive to operate, such as where I'm at even, or more expensive to launch, such as West Palm Beach or where you're at. Our areas are a little less expensive, of course, than Manhattan, New York. Thank goodness. So the initial franchise fee is $60,000. Military veterans do get a $7,500 discount off of this franchise fee, okay, as a thank you for their service. So initially, you start off with your franchise fee. You also have a one-time technology fee of $5,000. That's in a lower box. I'll get to that in a couple minutes. But I just want to be able to mention it now because initially, all the funds that you part with in the beginning are the franchise fee, which is the $60,000 minus $7,500 if you're a military veteran, and then the $5,000 technology fee. Okay, so that's all you part with at commitment time. The rest of these funds stay in your business account and are used to launch the business as needed. So I'm going to go through this carefully. If you have questions, please write it down and we'll debrief at the end. So the next box is traveling and living expenses while at training. Remember, training is free for you. It is provided to you as a support of what we provide, but you need to absorb the cost of the lodging and the travel. Well, now, we stay at a very humble Hilton Garden Inn. So my humble opinion, I don't think it's going to cost $4,000 to be in Cincinnati for 6 days, unless you decide to stay at the Ritz or something. But we stay at a very reasonable, clean, great hotel that provides. What's great about Cincinnati for training is there's no distractions. You're there to learn. And so that's what's great about Cincinnati. That's where our home offices are as well. Next box is your real estate. That's your office. So you do negotiate your lease. Some landlords want first and last month's rent, deposit, those types of things. Next box is office equipment. We talked about office equipment. Don't think you need to spend $600-800 humbly, in my opinion, on office equipment. Remember, reasonable stuff, chairs, tables, a file cabinet, call it a day. Don't need really expensive. Again, focus on profitability the first year, run lean. Next box, lease and utility deposits. That's your office. Okay, got to provide that deposit. Insurance. So let's talk about insurance for just a moment. Insurance is definitely necessary. And it's not too expensive. It's a business owner's policy, or sometimes it's called a small business owner's policy. And usually, depending on the state, typically runs anywhere between $3,500 to $4,000 a year, and consists of your workers' comp, your general liability, your disability, and your umbrella. And we have a broker that will actually assist you to get a best cost locally, and then we have a preferred vendor called USI Insurance. Definitely insurance is definitely necessary, and we make sure that you have enough coverage. Licensing and permits. There are states that require a general contractor's license for some of our owners. It depends on the state. Florida is one of them. California is another. Arizona, Michigan. So if there is costs associated with our owners having to get a license, that's what this box is for. It just depends on the state. Next box is grand opening marketing. So the marketing budget that for all of our owners the first year is anywhere between 12 and 15%. Okay, and then it goes down to a minimum of 10% after that. But there's an initial push. Okay, there's an initial push. Got to get your business cards, your card wrapped, your vehicle magnet signs, your shirts for your team, those things. So there is an initial push. Now keep in mind that we are also recession resistant. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that stuff still breaks. Things still need to get fixed during a recession. But maybe you beef up your marketing costs just a little bit because those larger jobs slow down. But the good news is that we're in a really, ultra healthy economy, almost overflowing economy for what we do right now. So that's the good news. Last but not least, the last two boxes, the next one is computer hardware and software. That's where the one-time $5,000 technology fee is housed. You never pay that again. It's a one-time fee. So that's where that is. But you do need computers. You need a reasonable desktop, inexpensive desktop for your CSR, maybe a couple monitors, and then a laptop or a computer for you. Laptop is suggested, but really you can actually run the business the first year on a laptop. So you don't really need to go out and buy a bunch of fancy computers. Again, think lean expenditures the first year. And then, of course, 3 months of working capital. Definitely want to have some working capital. So what we always suggest is think about what your personal living expenses are reasonably and conservatively per month, and set aside a minimum of 3 months as part of the investment. But it's always a good idea to even set aside, 6 to 8 months aside, even if you never use it all. It's just good to have that working capital so that your personal expenses and living expenses are taken care of during the launch of the business and the launch phase. Now, the business will generate revenue, but it's going to take some time to ramp it up. So The good news is that we have a pretty fast ramp up because due to our market share. So my owners should be making money and generating, projects and doing jobs the first month, but it's going to take some time for the business to get going. So that working capital is really important. So the investment is around $100,000 to open the doors, maybe a little less, sometimes $85,000 to $95,000, depending on some of the allocations of these boxes. But again, you want to set aside an additional $25,000 to $30,000 for the working capital is recommended. So you're looking at maybe conservatively for an area outside of some of those really affluent areas around $130,000 or so. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop the recording. Okay, and